Second game, we're going to get to Penn State hosting SMU. This is a noon game. I think Penn State is an 8.5-point favorite at this moment. The 6 versus 11 matchup. Everybody's talking point going into this was SMU versus Alabama's resume. Well, they played, their strength of schedule wasn't anywhere close to Alabama. Well, SMU played 60th, Alabama was 15th. Well, blah, blah, blah. Either way, SMU won the games they needed to, and the two tough opponents they played, they lost to. Now, you could say, oh, it's a Tier 2 game against Clemson or a Tier 2 game against BYU. I forget which one it is right now. Both won 10 games. One of them was your conference champ. BYU didn't go to the conference championship game because of the 8th tiebreaker or whatever it was in the Big 12. Those are the only two teams they lost to. Every other team they needed to beat, they did beat. And they got to 11 wins. And let's be honest, they lost by a combined 6 points to those two teams. One of those was on the last play of the game in your conference championship game. I mean, you can debate all you want about that. Alabama lost 3 games. 2 of them are to 6-6 teams. How good you want to say they are in the SEC, they don't belong in the playoffs. So, either way, SMU belongs, resume-wise. Penn State, they both didn't have that tough a schedule. Both are outside the top 50. Both have a Tier 1 win, though. Penn State had a good win on the road against Southern Cal. And SMU, I forget who their Tier 1 win was. I'm drawing a blank right now. Oh, it was Louisville on the road. That was another good win for them. But none of them had really any bad losses. So, I mean, resume-wise, these two teams definitely stack up, definitely should be in. Surface level stats, not really too much to say here. Only weak point is SMU's rushing offense, but every other stat for each team, they're both in the top 30 of total offense, total defense, scoring, offensive defense, passing, and rushing. So, I mean, this is going to be I think it's going to be a decent game. Some of these in-depth stats here, some teams do have certain advantages and possible mismatches. Again, just like Indiana, SMU has a lot of plays. They can score quickly. And the adjusted points a minute here, as you can see, SMU second. Also, but on defense, though, Penn State allows the 8th fewest points per minute. So that could be, a key thing to look at here for Penn State. Also, the rushing battle. As we said earlier, SMU's rushing offense is probably the one weak point in their entire team. But Penn State is 14th right now in rushing yards per 10th allowed. So that'll be one of the key things to look at here. And so if SMU can't get the running game going and Penn State can stop that, they might resort to passing. And again, when you have a good pass rush like Penn State always has, it could be a long day. And also here, James Franklin, I don't know what it is, but against good teams, he does not score in the red zone. Against every other team, as you can see in these stats, he's 25th in red zone possession touchdowns. But meanwhile, SMU's defense in the red zone, 112th. So that is a big mismatch there. Penn State gets in the end zone when they're in the red zone. SMU allows a lot of touchdowns when they're in the red zone. So that's another thing to look at. The adjusted pass rush, like I said before, it's a stalemate here. They both get to the pass rush pretty good, and they don't allow many sacks. So that again, though, I think Penn State has a much better D-line. They always have a good D-line, and that could be something to look at too if SMU cannot establish run. And finally, the turnover battle. SMU commits a lot of turnovers. Penn State does not commit a lot of turnovers. You can see they're 29th to present possessions with a turnover. Meanwhile, SMU is 101st. So that'll be, again, I'm going to get to these key points here. That'll be one of the main things to look at for a Penn State victory. But first, what are the keys to an SMU victory? Like I said before, maximize the number of plays. Penn State plays a lot slower tempo of offense. SMU wants to play a lot faster tempo. When you're the road team, you have to get as many plays in as possible because you want to try to take that home crowd, no matter how, when they can complain all they want about being a noon game. Who cares at this point? You got a home playoff game. So maximize the number of offensive plays. Get your team in most positions possible to get first downs, get field position, and eventually score points. That is how you dissect this Penn State defense. Second off, you have to shut down the first down runs. Penn State, just like Notre Dame, is a very balanced team. Alaric has been picking up as of lately, but they still are a run-first team. They still like to run the ball. They still have 2 of the better running back duos in the country with Singleton and Allen. So if you want to beat them, you have to shut down the run, force Alaric to pass more than he wants to, and that'll get him a little bit out of rhythm. And thirdly, you have to just, within reason, lower your amount of turnovers. If they commit less than 2, if they have 2 turnovers or less in this game, namely if they only have 1, 0 or 1, I think they have a big chance of winning this. If they start committing turnovers, then it's going to be a long day, because even though this has a lot of this team has a lot of plays, as you saw against Clemson, once they get out of sync, it's going to be tough to come back. And I don't think they're going to have a collapse like Clemson did in the ACC game, Penn State, I mean, for SMU to have some monster comeback. So those are your three keys for SMU to win the game. For Penn State to win the game, it's going to be simple: long drive touchdowns, keep possession of the ball, flip the field position, get to the red zone, and you got to get in the box. This team can come back in a hurry. You have to establish the run. You have to establish time possession. Second, make SMU believe they have to pass. Now, I say that because you don't necessarily need to shut down the run, but this team is not run heavy at all. So if you make them pass the ball, that pass rush is going to get to them eventually. And if Clemson's pass rush got to them, sure as hell Penn State's pass rush will get to SMU. So, I mean, there's not really much else to say. You have to make them to pass the ball, and they're not a run team in the first place. So if they pass the ball a lot, again, you got a lot more chances to have a sack or a turnover. And finally, this is kind of a generic thing. I just wanted to put this in here. Play like Michigan in 2023. Bully the team. Be the more experienced team. Be the stronger team. Be the tougher team. I'm not saying SMU is a soft team. We're not talking about Ryan Day soft kind of crap here, but Penn State definitely has more talent. And they definitely have the aptitude. They definitely have just the overall team scheme, schematics, culture, what do you want to call it, what you will, of just playing like a bully. And they have to just pound the rock, and eventually SMU will break. It's not going to be a runaway. They're not going to get up 21-0. It's not going to be a shootout. You have to limit their plays. And if you just bully them, I think SMU or Penn State will have an easy chance of covering the 8.5 points.